Ashtavakragita, Chapter 5, Verse 1. You have no contact with anything, whosoever. Therefore, pure as you are. What do you want to renounce? Destroy the complex and let yourself dissolve. If we see what we had discussed in the previous verses, it was on learning about ourselves. This learning, this seeing ourselves, is not with the idea of something. There is no notion that we carry while we inquire. Right? That's what the sage has helped us to see. To see everything fresh. If you would like to listen to all the verses, the playlist link of all the verses can be found in the description. However, we had a lot of resistance and fight within to know and learn about ourselves. Right? So when we did all the enquiries in the previous verses and in the previous chapters, so we could sense a lot of fight and resistance. Why was that? Because the one who already had an idea about the self is ignorant and would like to be sticking on to that idea. So the predefined idea is something which is stuck. And any newness or freshness is a threat to the existing idea or the ego. If we observe carefully, we have seen how the false trembles if there is a change. The truth never has to worry, as there is no secondary to the truth. The truth is one, while the false will not have anything to hold on to if something that is holding on to is shattered. Leave shattering, even if the false notion that we are holding on to, if it is questioned, there is a lot of fear that gets created. Right? We'll have to see this. The sage is saying, you have no contact with anything whosoever. Therefore, pure as you are, what do you want to renounce? When he says you have no contact with anything whosoever, then he's saying, what are we thinking of holding or living? So, there is nothing that needs to be lost or gained. What is the sage saying here? Let's understand. Okay, let's start relating this to our daily lives. Let's take an example. To understand this better, okay, let's take an idea that I will have to gain money so that the idea of me having less money in certain areas of my life can be renounced. Right? Okay, let's take another example. Okay, I want to make a lot of money so that I can eat at certain places. so that I can buy a particular property, etc., etc. Okay, so our mind will let us concentrate only on seeing in one direction, right? We see that, okay, I want to make money. But if we dig deeper, there is a contrary idea, right? The idea is, which is not seen or which is hidden, is I am not in a good place right now, and hence I want to renounce this thought in my mind by having an idea, and by running towards this idea of making money wherever I'm not able to afford, or wherever I feel that I'm not good enough, I can renounce those. Right? This is very important. Like, this is very, very important for us to look at. Always our mind will play with us by giving one direction, which will boost our ego. Right? And we will have all the logic to prove that direction right. But let us look into all the propositions shown by our mind. Let us not just go in one direction. Let's inquire on that direction, and if it is right, if it is the way of God, then we can go ahead. Let us take this opportunity to inquire. That is the reason the sage has given both of them. Like, he is talking about you don't have any contact with anyone, and also he's talking about renunciation. So, the ideas proposed by the mind are not to gain something, but the hidden intention is to renounce the previous ideas with the hope that the new one is better. This is like a vicious cycle. This will keep going on. Right? The sage is saying, you are pure. So, what is that you want to attach yourself to gain or lose? See, this is worth inquiring. This is worth inquiring in our lives so that we get a right direction. And the sage is not talking about what is right, what is wrong. And whatever I gave you was just one example which just struck me now. Right? And there are so many combinations of ideas that is formed that we can't say this is right, this is wrong. That's the reason the sage always fundamentally will tell us to look at ourselves, to inquire, to spend time to see where I am heading. Right? To not just see what the mind is telling us to see, what the world is telling us to see, rather put in effort to see the truth. Isn't it worth living a life with truth? This life which is spent in truth is spent with God. Let's see where I am heading. Is it with purity or with some bizarre idea? The sage is helping us to see the original nature of us, which is immense peace. And the verse, what the sage is telling us, is not to proceed life with any ideas at all. No. The nature of mind is to keep creating. It keeps creating ideas. It just keeps generating the thought. But the sage is helping us to choose the right creation. Because the choice is with us. We are the one who is making the decision. Right? Whatever we say that no, it was momentary, it was instantly we did this decision, whatever it is, we would have taken that decision. And we have this immense power of taking the decision. So it's our responsibility to make the right choice. I mean, it's not just what the sage here is talking about, but all the sages, their effort is to make us take the right choice, to make the right decision, to be with God. What is being with God? To be in the presence of that immense bliss, immense peace. To be light. It's not like there'll be no difficulties, no hard work required. No. The actions that are performed are for God, are only for God, and there are no false notions or ego involved. If there is no ego involved, then we are not attached or detached to anything or anyone. Right? And yes, it is not like, okay, completely, there's no attachment, because until unless this body is there, we are doing it. So there is slightest of the things that will come to us. But this work, this life with no false notion is blissful. Right? And it is possible. It is like, that's where we are all on. It's a journey where we are being with God. So let this everlasting bliss be sprouted into the lives of all, is why the sage is explaining all of this. Right? And these verses are very scientific, and we will have to see it with a lot of maturity. The sage has told that, okay, no idea, how is it possible? I'll leave all the ideas and sit. No. Actually, the verses of, sage Ashtavakra, or any verse that we take from Vedanta, it is so practical. It will not tell us to leave or attach to something. Right? Because it's more about the work. It's more about the actions that we take. Because that is what we are. Like, we are living in a world, right, where we'll have to work. But how this life can be beautiful, and how each and every breath can be with God. How God is closer to us, but the ego or the mind has kept it so much away to just, to just keep this tiny ego alive. Right? What is the idea behind holding on to many things? It is to make the ego bigger. Right? By saying, I have so many things to achieve, it's like a barrier to see the real us. By seeing the reality, the falseness would just vanish. There is no more trap. Right? The sage is helping us to see this. The sage is saying, you are pure. Pure as God. The ego, in contrary, is very small and limited. It is bounded by some limitations or with some idea. But the projection that it shows is such that it has so many things to achieve. Right? When ego is not there, when there is only God, then everything will be like, anything is possible. But if the ego wants it, then there is stress, then there is strain. That is the reason, you take any sage of any religion. I think everyone would have come across that, let us do it for the God. Why do they say it? Because when I am not there, then there is no, it will create, right? Even in our office and all, if I have to do certain things, when this me is involved, then it creates a lot of stress. Then the ego will be like, why I should do it? Why this? Why that? So many energy is lost only in that. While I don't exist, and it's for God, then there is so much of love, right? So much of bliss in doing anything. That's where, that's where the sage is stressing on, make the right choice, take the right step. Then life is beautiful. This ego wants to keep the limitations alive and save itself by staying small, but by projecting it as something big. Look at it, my dear ones, is what the sage is saying. And it's very important for us to look into all of this. Even if we get the whole world, the whole universe, who is it for? It is for the limited ego. So this is an opportunity for us to see all of this. The sage says you are in no contact with anyone. Then why is the sage talking to us? Why the sage is in contact with so many people, transforming so many lives? Right? Let's understand this. When the sage meant this, he's telling us to meet this world with freshness. Not to have contact with anyone with the predefined notion or ideas. The person who has no pre-notions will be doing good to this world. The work that this person does is godly. Right? The base of all of this is the ego is always holding that I am incomplete and I am running towards this world to get something. The sage is saying to renounce this incompleteness. This is the first step. Renouncing that I am incomplete is the first thing. And the idea of I can get something in this world to complete me is false. How can something complete which is already complete? Something which is an immense bliss. What peace or what other bliss can complete it? Right? This is something that is created by ego. Right? Why there is a thought that, okay, I need some other completion. Let's look into it. So we are so pure that no thought or idea can manipulate us. So nothing to gain and nothing to renounce. let us contemplate on the attachments that we are stuck with, the ideas that we are stuck with in this world. Let us inquire. When we are in contact with God, is anything else needed? Is the ideas and thoughts working as a team within, and is it creating a chain which keeps creating, where one leads to the another and other leads to one more, and so on? And will I be able to catch all of them and work on them? Is the sage telling us something? Will I be able to revise this and renounce the base which is forming all of this? With this, is there anything that can trouble me? What can be taken away or given back? Let us contemplate. My guru used to say, don't believe in your next thought. That's it. Let's revise and relate truly to our lives. Let's have faith in God. God is not away from us. God loves us and is always close to us. The tiny mind and ego will not be able to fathom God.